since 10th Thunder since June 2000.
Oh, you got it down. We got to get a lot of your programs up. And welcome very much to Conversations. A pleasure to welcome a dear friend of Conversations, that being Bob Dobbs, and he's been a guest so many times, 10. And we talked over with him. He's a media ecologist. He's very much a student of James Joyce, can talk long lines right out of his head of Finnegan's Wake and Ulysses, and an incredible feat of memory and so forth, and also a student of media. And Bob, welcome. It's so good to see you. Always good to see you.
It's good to keep the dialogue going with you, Harold.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about your own background, please, and everything, and then we'll just get into discussion about media, communications as DNA, maybe for social patterns and all that. But talk about your own background a little bit. You've done it before, but let's go quickly and then into the substance of what you're involved with now.
First, I'd like to dedicate the show to two people.
Mm-hmm.
You've met one, Gerd Stern.
Wonderful man.
Yeah. And you've had him on once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
And the other man you didn't meet, but you met him through McLuhan, because Don Thall was Marshall McLuhan's best student.
Oh, really?
He wrote the best books on Marshall McLuhan, and he passed on yesterday.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry, yeah.
The interesting thing about Gerd and Don is that they were born within 24 hours of each other.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
And they grew up in New York City, and they were born on your special day, October 12th, October 13th.
I'll be darned, really.
1928.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry he passed, but yeah.
Now, Gerd and Don were both influential in many fields, and the influence came through their early acquaintance with Marshall McLuhan. Gerd Stern here in New York City, getting the Project 69 report that McLuhan did in 1960 for the educational broadcasters here.
Gerd was involved in that?
Gerd
or knew him then?
No, Gerd got the manuscript, the printed copy of the project from John Cage in the early 60s.
Okay.
Don Thall became a student of McLuhan coming out of Yale, the literary criticism department, English department, and went and met Marshall McLuhan in 1950. So he got involved with McLuhan earlier.
Yeah.
But what was interesting is Don was an expert in the art world that Gerd lived.
Yes, okay.
You know, here in New York City.
Right, right.
So Don is the Sean and Gerd is the Shem in terms of the dialectic in Finnegan's Wake, the two twins.
Okay.
Sean, Don becomes a professor and a president of a university, but very hip and you know, a true representative of the moment. And Gerd Stern lived it in not necessarily the underground, but the fringe world. And but he met so many people and influenced people. For example, he introduced Howard Gossage to Marshall McLuhan.
No fooling. Okay, okay.
And Howard Gossage, you know, makes McLuhan famous in the 60s.
Gerd was famous for those light shows and things that he did. They're a tremendous artful thing, yeah, right.
They've been doing retrospectives around the world with Gerd and his colleague Michael Cavanaugh, I think his name is, and
I think,
Usko.
Yeah,
Usko. And
that's right. They have a place up in Nyack or something.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
But they were the first multimedia experiments, and he got that idea from reading McLuhan's work. You know, and he was a correspondent with McLuhan, met him, and Don Thall was the other side of it, very involved with McLuhan, and was the first to create a program, a PhD program in Canada around communication study.
He wasn't at Toronto? Was
No, he went to McGill, and the University of Toronto didn't get it done. I don't know if they have it. Maybe they have it now. I don't think so. But McLuhan complained to his own university that, you know, his student got it done before he did.
I'll be darned. Yeah, he had that Center for Culture and Technology in that that gatehouse. Coach House. A coach house.
That you visited.
Yeah, we visited every spring for about 3 years there, yeah.
What's interesting is that they were born on that important date in your, quote, mythology, October 12th, 1970.
Need we say mythology? Could we have a little stronger term?
Your model.
My model. My something.
Intellectual framework.
Intellectual.
And you mentioned it in your new manifesto.
Well, all right, I do, yeah.
Not the actual date, but you say around 1970.
The idea, yeah. The idea that things happen and they can be identified to what's going on in terms of zeitgeist. And,
right.
Yeah.
And so I do want to dedicate and acknowledge Don Thall and Gerd Stern and what they've done, you know, with the McLuhan information. They both became very influential in many fields. And with that in mind, now we'll go to what happened in 1970.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll mention my background for a second, but we're going to discuss this October 1970 was the beginning of the tactile economy, is what I would say.
Okay.
Which McLuhan was an expert on.
Okay.
This is not known too much. He did do a book on it at that time.
Which would that be?
Take the Day.
Take the Day. I remember. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And that came out in 1972.
It did. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So my expertise of the situation of the tactile economy comes from my background in intelligence work, which I did out of Europe and then in North America since the early 50s. I mean, I was originally assigned to find out why Marshall McLuhan was revealing what he had discovered through studying Wyndham Lewis and Harold Innis and Siegfried Gideon and Sergei Eisenstein.
Why are those people less well known in the name significant? Media studies, understanding the effects of media. Marshall McLuhan's famous for that. All of those, some of those, why?
Well, Harold Innis is well known in
Portrayed.
academia, but Wyndham Lewis is not known because he has been stigmatized as a fascist in the 1930s because he wrote a journalistic anthropological book on Hitler. And then he changed his view of that situation in the late 30s. But Wyndham Lewis was the person that Marshall McLuhan says he got his idea that the medium was the message. He got it from Wyndham Lewis. That's on tape. Arts Can did a special issue in 1967, and there's a recording interview with McLuhan, and that's where he talks about Wyndham Lewis.
That's the famous thing, the medium is the message, that the medium by which the message is being conveyed is more important to evolution of consciousness than the message that we all concentrate on.
That's right.
Big idea, huge icon in the around 1970.
Right, and I was just in London, and there was a presentation at the Tate Britain Museum, an assessment of Wyndham Lewis's art group, the Vortices, out of Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot and Joyce come. And there was a painter group before them called the Camden Town Group, 1911 and 1913. And the new research shows that Lewis was influenced by the Camden Town Group, and they, in 1914, some of the members moved into Wyndham Lewis's Vortices group. And so there's a reassessment this century by scholars in England about the role and importance of Wyndham Lewis, and they want to make him the big guy for this century, with the way Joyce was for the previous century.
Really?
Yes, and James Joyce built his work on his understanding and argument with Wyndham Lewis.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So Wyndham Lewis is very important, but not as well known now. He was famous in the teens and 20s. Captain Beefheart, famous rock musician, avant-garde musician. His favorite writer is Wyndham Lewis.
Really? Okay.
And David Bowie and a few other people have mentioned Wyndham Lewis various times in the 70s and 80s, so that Lewis has a recognition, but more in the underground, in terms of the baby boomer and punk and Generation X age groups.
Well, great art things often do come out of those quarters, don't they?
That's right. Well, definitely Wyndham Lewis was the first punk.
Punk.
Yeah, he was the first punk. And he also had the hippie in him. He had the beatnik, and he had the yuppie, and he had the guppy. He had it all covered. You can see that on my chart, which is at fivebodied.com.
Yeah, the fivebodied.com is what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, that is the most important website in terms of experiencing xenochrony, which is a strange synchronicity that we engage on the internet. And that is really heightened on my website. You go there, you get the virus. I don't know why it happens, but it's a strange thing. You know the idea that movie 2 years ago, Man of the Year with Tom Dobbs.
That
was based on my reality.
Came out on October 12th, didn't it? Or no?
Yeah, it came out very close to your day.
Yes, right.
It did.
Right.
And we did a show. We did a show on October 12th, 2006.
We did, and it came out, and it just happened serendipitously.
Man of the Year with Robin Williams.
But bombed at the box office. But the idea was that a Comedy Channel guy became president by a fluke.
Through a computer glitch, which is exactly how I became president of Secret, or chairperson of the Secret Council 10.
It was a great idea.
Did you get that? That's exactly how I became chairperson of the Secret Council 10 in 1988. Through a computer glitch.
Okay,
exactly the same scenario.
You understand we have to back up and talk about the Secret Council of 10 if you want to.
No, because they can go on your YouTube
other programs,
things, and I'm up there. Just go back a few shows. I'm there.
I got some I got to put up. I've been so damn busy. I got to get some of those ones we've done. We got them all in good order, and they're going to be going up to Le Temps soon.
So the point about the phrase the tactile economy is an expression of the attitude of the intelligence agencies and the true managers of the economy. Because
true managers of the economy. Okay.
Because once as McLuhan pointed out, when satellite went up in '57, Sputnik went up, beginning of the satellite environment, then nature and the planet became an art form, and previous media technologies became art forms. All right? That is the process.
They become the form of the new media.
Yes.
That's what happens.
The content of the new media, and they become
content.
programmed.
All right.
And program means, like an artist, you're anticipating the effect of your work on the audience or the people engaged with it. So the economy at that point, since it moved from ownership based not on money and private property, but to information property, intellectual property, became the new form of economic power.
With the Sputnik, you mean?
Yes, after Sputnik, the planet went from global village to global theater. And the computer first was the mainframe, and then the subsequent evolution of the computer always was the extension, not necessarily of a central nervous system, but of parts of the brain, the calibrating aspects of the brain.
Is it fair to say extension is a technology extension of consciousness, or is that going too far? Because I know we're talking about communication being the DNA of our social, political, and economic order. I wonder those things. Do they fit in now?
Exactly.
Okay.
And if any, when you get all the other programs I've done up on your YouTube, they'll be able to follow through sequentially this discourse we've been having. The merits or the values or the contributions of Bucky Fuller, Louis Kelso, Marshall McLuhan, Gaddafi, Ray Kurzweil, and Teilhard de Chardin. Those are your 6 people you interrelate. And I've known all of them and interacted with them. So what I'm saying is...
You knew Kelso?
Yes, I met him once through McLuhan.
You did?
Yeah. But it was not...
McLuhan said, and I'm not sure, War and Peace and
Global Village.
I had a ball reading that binary, or two-factor theory.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
He was the one who put me in touch with Kelso,
McLuhan did?
Yeah, it was through him that I got in touch with him. Then
he recommended him to you?
No, through the book. I just read the book.
Put the thought in your mind.
Right,
well, you know, at the center, all these people passed through McLuhan, and McLuhan was interested in the book, and he talked to Kelso, and I was there for that.
Interesting. I didn't know that. That's new. That's brand new. I didn't know that.
So the point I'm making is that when the computer comes in and we have a global theater under satellite conditions.
It's interesting. From global village, he said the world is a global village.
Which he got from Wyndham Lewis.
He got it from Wyndham Lewis. And then it became global theater, you're saying?
In the 60s.
With the satellite.
Yeah, with the satellite. And then it becomes what I call the Android meme. Once the computer and the digitization of the situation becomes the hidden ground or the actual constitutive factor in molding our sense of what the economy is.
As in figure and ground?
Yes, figure and ground.
The figure is?
Well, it was television.
Yeah.
Then it became the satellite. Then it became digitization. All right? I mean, the 60s was known as the space age.
Yeah.
Right? That's going out to space. Even though the effect of the satellite was to turn back into our own sense of the planet, and we became very self-conscious of this little global village we're living in and the natural terrestrial habitat. That situation gets shrunk and turned into increasingly tinier holograms. And that's the phase of the digitization or the Android meme.
That's where it's going to end up?
That's where we've been for 20 years.
A hologram?
Oh, yeah. Well,
hologram is not very much in the society now.
The effect of the hologram, the effects, as McLuhan pointed out, always show up before the actual technology. Like Seurat painted the pixels of television 80 years before it showed up.
Or some people thought Cubism was presaging quantum mechanics, you know, that there was a connection between that.
Yes, because Cubism was called multi-locational art.
Was it really?
Yeah, multi-locational. And that's quantum electronic states of being. They're in 2 places at once, at least.
And was it Pond who said the artists are the antenna of the race, or was it
That was Pound.
That was.
Yeah.
That's interesting, that there are people who pick things up out of the air, as it were, and come up with these things first, the real artists, right on the cutting edge.
His fellow vorticist, Wyndham Lewis, said, the artist writes a detailed history of the future.
Detailed history of the future. That's interesting,
because
isn't
he's the only one aware of the present.
He's the only fishbowl out of that fishbowl.
Yeah,
and fish out of that fishbowl that can see it.
Because he's aware of the present.
Yeah, and that's the mark of the artist in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the serious artists.
The serious artists, and the ones who are presaging what's giving a dew line, he used to call it, a distant early warning. Like
now, by the 60s, maybe even the 50s, that function of the artist was replaced by what? Advertising. Advertising became the dew line because they would study the effects of the new technological environments.
They were good at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then they would mirror back the product.
Yeah, and you had, what's his name, Vance Packard, and talking about and how easy it is to manipulate human consciousness and everything, and it's just become an art form in itself. Or
well,
something.
serious art always includes the past.
Okay.
And advertising was a stabilizing force. It got people into the military operation of shopping and programming the shopping as a identity stability in relation to the eternal 24/7 change
as they knew
that the tactile economy was bringing in, which threatened everybody's identity.
And it was the threat to the identity that creates all the anxiety.
Yes.
Or violence even. Yeah. Violence is filling in for an identity loss and filling in the gap. Yeah.
So you need a lot of bad news to deal with the good news.
Well, that's what it was.
Okay, so what is the good news?
The good news, the advertising. Right. The bad news, they gin it up.
No, the advertising is good news, the good news is advertising, but it has a bad effect because it makes you feel that what you have is obsolescent. Yeah, and you need to buy something new. So there's anxiety.
Yeah, but the news drives you to distraction also.
But wait a minute. See, the good news is it has a bad effect. So people need a lot of bad news.
Yes, right.
To feel that they are still viable because they survived the disasters.
I see.
The survivor emotion. So bad news has a good effect. Good news has a bad effect. That is what McLuhan said. He pointed out in the 50s to newspapers and newspaper editors, and he said they resented him ever since for that.
Yeah, right.
You know, they made sure that they
that drives the economy for crying out loud.
That drives the economy. Now,
and politics.
Now we're getting into this dialectic. Now it's not dialectical materialism unless you look at media as materialistic environments, and they are.
Yeah.
But their effects are not limited to just our ideas of our bodies. They represent effects on the way we think, our mental landscapes, which I call memes. So the effects of new media or new memes on old memes gets really confusing by the 60s.
A lot of people associate meme with Dawkins, a selfish gene, that kind of thing. It's like a genetic thing. We got the genome and all that, but a meme is like a cultural thing.
We pass it on like the genes.
We pass it on like genes, and that's what the meme word connotes. And you talk about the what do you call it, the alpha, what is it? The meme, the
Android meme.
Android meme you talk about.
That's the later phase.
That's a later phase. In terms of this evolution of human affairs seen through technology and the effects of technology upon consciousness.
There were two major breakthroughs in 1953. The cracking the code of the DNA. Okay, what's that? Crick and Watson.
Well, they discovered the helium.
In 1953. The other discovery in '53 was Marshall McLuhan figuring out that technologies create memes, and these memes are based on the sensory ratios and the mental interplay or the attitudes.
That's true again, because it's interesting. The media, each of the media, each medium is an extension of one of our sensory capabilities.
External or internal.
External or internal, and so the eye, it's an extension of the eye print. It's linear, that kind of thing. Ear, and that kind of thing. And that's okay. Go on.
And so once you get the extension,
and there, excuse me, when you're in Eden, when you're nested in Eden at the beginning, 200,000 years ago or whenever, that was all at once internal kind of relationship in terms of that. But when you extend,
that was a tactile situation.
That was tactile because tactile sixth sense or resonating relationship to
intertwining and interrelating and not having any particular one dominate.
Yeah, and with the media being extended disproportionately, it creates sensorial disequilibrium.
The ear. First, the extension of the ear through speech, then the extension of the eye through writing, then the printing press enhanced and made the patriarchal imperialistic form of economy over the last 300 years was based on the printing press and the phonetic alphabet.
And he said the phonetic alphabet was the basic metaphor for organizing Western civilization? McLuhan would say.
Yes.
And linear thinking, notions of rationality even?
Came from the effect of the phonetic alphabet as the Greeks presented it. Okay, but then the printing press made it a global phenomenon. It allowed the West to project the phonetic alphabet over the whole world.
And colonize.
So then the next sense extended, if we have the ear and the eye, what's next? Our muscles. That's kinetic space, and that is our pumping machines.
And we're beginning
you get that? The pumping machines.
That's right. That's what it is, isn't it?
The steam engine.
Yeah, right.
And then what do we extend after we've done the eye, ear, and our movement functions? The internal, the central nervous system, the interior landscape.
Tell us and then you got the satellite. And
right.
And
now
the
satellite's different. No, you're jumping ahead.
Okay.
So the tactile electricity extends the central nervous system. That's the tactile sense. Now that means we've been completely extended. So what's extended next? The whole planet. in a little artificial planet that we could live in called a spaceship or a satellite.
Right.
So the satellite is the end point. It extends everything, the whole planet and us. All right? So that's the completion.
Okay.
That's the omega. All right?
Omega point, not
yeah,
omega
the alpha,
point.
The alpha is the tactile primitive conditions. Then we went through these phases, and the omega is the extension of the whole planet, which is the satellite. What do we do after that?
I don't know. Where are we now, Bob?
That brings in the digital, the O and the 1. And the result of that technology, which is an extension of the calibrating factors of our brains, might even be considered the extension of the corpus callosum, the in-between between the left and right hemisphere. That extension means that technology takes on a life of its own and extends itself, not us or not the planet.
An android meme.
That's the android meme. That's the machinic meme, to quote Deleuze and Guattari. The machinic, not machines, it's the machinic, which is an interplay, subtle extension of the corpus callosum or the calibrating factors of our brains. So that's what the computer revolution is. It's since 1960, when we began to create digital technology, we have culminated over the last 15 years with the android meme running amok and humans being marginalized. Now the android meme is very clever. It makes itself more and more seductive by disappearing and not so visible and shrinking and miniaturizing so that people think they control the media. And that's YouTube, that's your Palm Pilot, that's your BlackBerry, that's your iPhone, that's all this friendly media that kids grow up in thinking they're bigger than. No previous environment was felt and communicated to humans that it was smaller than the human beings that extended it. So we have this incredible subtle living organism, way beyond what P.K. Dick wrote about. Joyce is the closest in Finnegan's Wake. Wyndham Lewis predicted it, talked about it, but Joyce showed it in the actual book form.
In the Wake.
In the Wake, which is a presentation of tactility in print.
We started talking about thunders and whatnot.
Finnegan's Wake is a presentation of tactility in print.
Okay.
All right? And the person who, in academic worlds and in literary criticism, who popularized that and made it explicit, he got it from McLuhan, but McLuhan didn't live long enough to do it, is Don Thall, who passed on yesterday.
Oh, yeah,
Don Thall's the one who understood how Finnegan's Wake anticipated the android meme.
You were in close touch with him or no?
Yes, Don was inspired, and he actually said that I'm the one who receives the McLuhan mantle. That was his final words.
Really?
I'm the one who deserves to be considered the influenced by McLuhan by creating a new McLuhan effect.
And
I'm the new McLuhan is what Don Thall said.
Oh, that's quite an accolade.
Yeah,
I mean, that's quite a thing to do because he was a giant.
He was a giant, but he understood that from my background what I knew. And so we collaborated on several of his books. He did the Joyce Era is one book, and the other one is James Joyce's Technopoetics, 95 and 97. But he also did the best follow-up book on McLuhan, the virtual Marshall McLuhan.
Thall, no?
Yeah, Don Thall. It's called The Virtual Marshall McLuhan, which is an update of his first book, 1971, The Medium is a Rearview Mirror, which was so good, McLuhan wanted it suppressed. And it became a big issue up in Canada, and they had to bring in 5 university presidents to sort it out.
Really?
Yes, but I think that was Marshall McLuhan, under the influence of his agent, Matey Molinaro, who did not have a very good effect on certain aspects of the McLuhan estate, I think. I think that they've kept the scholars away, and you can't get into the McLuhan world because of the attitude of his agent, it seems to me.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a big thing you've been aware of. I thought the Gutenberg Galaxy was a tour de force. I thought that was great. You don't relate to that, or you do?
Well, of course, the Gutenberg Galaxy is a very important book. I mean, that's where McLuhan put on the academic world.
When was that? Do you have
1962 it came out.
62.
And he put on the academic world, and that's why he put on. He targeted the academic world, and he was successful. He won the Governor General Award, but he emphasized Harold Innis as the influence, because Innis was the only academic who had done media studies before McLuhan.
Had he done a lot of things about fur trading or something?
Yes, that's Harold Innis.
That's Harold Innis, right?
The fur trade was his early work.
Yeah.
McLuhan would say that was the trade routes of hardware.
Yeah.
In his later work, like the book The Bias of Communication, he deals with the trade routes of the mind or the
trade routes of the mind. That's a good term. Is that trade routes of the mind trademarked?
Yes.
We can use it? It is trade. We can use it? We can talk about it?
You can't trademark a phrase, but we can talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But the thing is that the interplay of the android meme phase from 60 on is what I call tactility,
Okay.
extended in the economic terms. When information becomes the determinant of value, then whoever controls the microphone, we now call the Federal Reserve Chairman, or the White House, determining where the economy is, and since they say the economy is based on perception, the perception of us, the global actors. There are no spectators in the global theater, McLuhan said. We're all actors and participants in the global economy.
On the stage.
On the stage. And what is the platform for the stage? The credit card. The credit card is a stage we're all standing on as little discarnate entities.
Credit card, or the concept of credit?
Yes.
Interest? These kind of things.
Concept that money can be shared and it's public property, and that we can go in debt and then work from there. So we're actually working with the quantum void, the subatomic in our economy, whereas in the 19th century you had to have a visual accounting of everything on balance.
Yeah.
Now we're going post-visual. And so the interplay of saying where we are, right now the GNP is this, and then tomorrow it could be that. But we know that the whole economy is communicating all over the world. It's not limited to a national status, and everybody's dependent. Remember the scene in the movie Network when the CEO tells Howard Beale, he says
you have meddled with nature.
You have meddled with the forces of nature, for which you will atone.
Yes, right. That was a great movie. Just great.
So what does he say? He said there are no nations, there are no peoples, there are no businesses, there are no this. The world is a holistic information format.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I'm changing the words a bit.
Yeah, a little bit you did. I think it was a business.
He says a holistic business. But he says the Arabs will take the money out and then they will put it back in. What do you think they do every morning? The communists, the capitalists, the third world, every morning they get out their computers and they look at the printout and they determine what they're going to do that day. Then they do it the next day. Run by information. Where is the printout coming from? The mixture of all the factors of all the news agencies and the intelligence agencies describing the weather and where we're at. All right? Now, the only popular way of organizing where we're at is through advertising and ratings. The ratings. McLuhan said that
Nielsen ratings.
The Nielsen ratings. McLuhan said Big Brother was no longer
Nielsen reigns, huh?
That's right.
The reign of Nielsen.
McLuhan said that Big Brother was no longer the Orwellian Big Brother, you know, some secret elite, or Bilderbergers or Trilateral Commission. It was the Nielsen ratings. That was Big Brother.
And we don't have them here at public access, you know. I don't think we can afford them.
Well, you guys are a byproduct of the whole situation, of the surplus wealth. But the point is that the interplay of the Nielsen ratings, national priorities, global priorities, new technological priorities, plus preserving the sense of old identities, and that you are an American even though the guy says to Beale, there are no peoples, there are no nations, but you have to create the genuine fake that there was a nation.
Genuine fake.
And that there is a nation. That's what the White House is for. The interplay of all that is the tactile economy. That's what we mean. The interplay of all these quote, confusing, non-simple aspects and factors is what we live in. So therefore, you can't really say we're going into recession. You can't say we're going into full employment. You can't say we're unemployed.
Well, I notice people do say that all the time.
That's the genuine fake for local consumption, because people continue looking at the content, believing that there's something to see, something to listen to. Remember, tactility is the interplay of the senses,
I think
not a sense.
Exactly. Tactility was something more than the sum of the parts or something. It was
It's
like
the
a
interplay.
resonancy of all.
Yes. In other words, you can't put your finger on it.
We were in touch with nature, but now we're being returned to that in terms of a multisensory perception and environment that we're in at the end of this process of extending our through technological instruments, our consciousness out into the environment and creating an environment other than what in an Eden-like sense is given. We're at the end of that process.
Yes, and that extension is coming back inside us. This is the important point that Arthur Croker makes in his book, The Data Trash or Spasm.
I haven't seen it yet,
Oh, no, it came out in the 90s. Arthur Croker was a great student of Marshall McLuhan. He helped spark the McLuhan revival in the late 80s in the postmodern academy, postmodernist-dominated academy. And he makes a point that he says that McLuhan talked about the extensions and missed the point that they become cannibalistic and come back into us. That's not exactly accurate. McLuhan disappears, and also McLuhan did say media is cannibalistic. Okay, eats us alive, and eats previous media alive. But Croker was working with the Madison Avenue icon of this man, Marshall McLuhan, promoting the global village, which everybody thought was a pastoral, Edenic, peaceful thing that was coming. McLuhan said, no, the global village.
Not hardly. There's all gossip and all kinds of things going on.
Which is what McLuhan defined the global village as more stress and more friction and more fighting than there was in the 19th century in a more visual bias culture. So this tactility, and Croker is important because he intuits the tactile economy, and he writes about it. Check his books out, Data Trash and Spasm.
Okay.
And now, this tactility
So that's where we're at now?
Yes.
Where are we now, Bob Dobbs? And this is on your five-body thing, too.
Yes, we go into this on the fivebody.com website constantly.
That's your concept. Yeah.
Now, McLuhan in his Playboy interview said, talking about how people, and especially young people, the questioner was asking, what are they influenced by? He says, well, they're influenced by movies, television, radio, and other people. You have to look at what he says. If there are other people, that means movies, radio, and television are people. So this idea of first nature and this Edenic condition that we as early cavemen came out of, and then we went through the fragmentation, the Neolithic specialization, and then we moved into the electronic Marconi galaxy and re-imploded.
Just yesterday.
We're now, just yesterday, we're now a tactile situation. We retrieved in second nature what we've created to simulate what we had in first nature. They're now merging more and more. So therefore, as McLuhan...
But there's a big change going on in this 200,000 years in terms of knowledge.
That's what I just described, that they're coming together. We've never had them come together.
But we're closing quotes on a process that began maybe 200,000 years ago, or when humanity emerged out of evolution.
It's good you say the word quote, because McLuhan did a whole book on the definition of quotation, or the words quotes. It's called From Cliche to Archetype. It's the relationship of quotation versus probe.
Well, what about that idea that we're at some sort of so where does it, or maybe we should say where we are.
The tactility means...
I'm Scots, right?
Look,
I'm a Scot.
Don't bring your personal. There's no you in this tactile economy.
No, it's just a song. There's an old song.
Let's stay on the
but there's an old Scottish song,
so
and it goes like this.
Here.
I'll sing it for
We
you.
are miming the tactility by talking over each other. That is the tactile economy. That's crossfire. Everybody speaking at the same time.
Crossfire.
Yeah, and you can't figure out the boundaries.
How about John McLaughlin?
Yeah.
John McLaughlin, they're all screaming.
So you can't say we've reached the end point or the return to the alpha.
I'm going to do it
because tactility means...
Reach the alpha, the omega.
Yeah, because tactility means there's no finish line
used the omega
and there's no beginning. You cannot determine visually where tactility begins and where it leaves off. And so October 12th, 1970 is a curious probe in a tactile situation.
That's what McLuhan used to say, always probes, and people would drive people nuts. But I'm going to get my song.
Okay, bring in your Scottish song.
I'm going to bring in there's an old Scottish song that was sung by Harry Lauder, and it might be apropos of a synergistic resonancy characteristic of universal consciousness. Maybe we're coming into a new relation, speciation. It goes like this. We don't know where we're going, but we're on our way. We don't know where we're going, but we're here to say, lidle, diddle, deedle, diddle, doo, die. We don't know where we're going, but we're on our way. I got the song in, damn it.
That is the anthem of tactility, at least in the analog media.
But we're coming
to... But Harold, what happens in the Android meme phase, the Android meme sings that song to us. You're a human being singing it. That's up to the 1960s. Analog media. Now digital is the media subsuming the analog and presenting itself as a dialogue within
it's more like synergy. Fuller used the term synergy, behavior systems unpredicted by the sum of the parts. We're closing quotes on a process. And where do we go from here? Is it womb-leaving time? What is the time in terms of human conscious, human affairs, as we sit here and talk on May 15th of the year 2008? Where are we?
Well,
are you optimistic, pessimistic? What is the outlook? Where do politics fit in? What is it, that kind of thing? What does it mean?
I'm a deconstructionist.
I've noticed.
Yes. And an apocalyptic in the sense that everything that we think is happening melts away.
Okay.
So for the religious fundamentalists, they cannot precisely predict or acknowledge when the second coming happens. I say the second coming has arrived, technologically extended. McLuhan called it the Prince of the Air. He said it could go like an Antichrist, or it could grow, depending on our awareness, as a collective second coming.
He was Catholic, wasn't he?
Yes, he put on put on the Catholic faith.
Put it on.
Put it on. Yes, he put it on. But that's another topic.
Okay. Let's not go there.
Yeah. Well, you can look at his book, The Medium and the Light, where he critiques the Pope and the Vatican and everybody. He doesn't act like a normal Catholic. You know what I mean? He demanded and asked for a third Vatican Council. There was Vatican II over his issues, that he raised.
Okay.
So they put him on an advisory board, but never asked him what he thought. Anyways, he had a very a tactile relationship to being a Catholic.
But where
tactile means you're not definable. This economy is not definable.
Tactile was more than the sum of the total sensorial equilibrium.
That's synergy.
That's
tactile
synergy.
would be more and less.
No,
more and less is tactility.
No,
more and less.
More and less inclusive.
Less is put out because nothing is there for you to get.
But that relationship being, let's say, nested in nature, we go to Rousseau, if we go to nature and we go to Eden and so forth, that being in touch and a resonancy more than the sum of all your your sensory capability. Tactility isn't touch, like feeling.
That's right.
Yes, there's a resonancy.
Letting go.
There's but there's a resonancy between the two. Tactility encompasses
up
that.
And down, the beat, the rhythm, in between.
Yeah, but the in between.
That's
and that
tactility.
But it's the space in between, and that begins to come out in string theory, I think, and that sort of thing.
That's right.
But it comes back.
You know what's the problem with string theory?
What is?
They know the visual models don't work. The quantum mechanics question the visual problems, all right? Einstein began at questioning the Newtonian framework. Newton was visible.
1905, is that be?
1905 and then 1917, 1915, did two phases.
Yeah.
The point is he moves into the non-visual. McLuhan said Einstein described the sculptural tactile effect of the universe.
Right.
Okay, then the Copenhagen Conference in 1927, and the later guys get in, and Einstein couldn't accept it, but they start talking about the electron be two places at once. They're getting more and more in depth into the non-visual. But they're trying to fit it back into the visual.
Yeah.
All right?
Well, people always
now they can't do that.
Drive into the future with their eye fixed firmly on the rear view mirror.
Because we don't know where we're going.
Because we're on our way. But we're on our way.
way.
That's the point. Everybody, where the hell are we going? You know? And I think
I'm glad we
in
got
an
that
age
song
of
in
species lethal weapons, that's a very important question, don't you think?
Okay. So string theory is the acknowledgement by physicists that the visual models don't work at all. We can't fit it in. So what do they fit it into? The acoustic model.
They want an accelerator.
They make up this theory that regular physicists and scientists say is ridiculous. You can't see it. You can't describe it.
The math seems to work. The modeling. The math seems to work.
Yeah, but it's based on acoustic vibration and resonance. They haven't got to the tactile point. The guy who gets to the tactile point is Jack Sarfati. Look up Jack Sarfati.
I don't know.
Great physicist. He's out in San Francisco. Go to stardrive.org. Jack Sarfati.
STAR? All one word?
Yeah. Jack Sarfati is the physicist for the post-string theory, and we basically
post-string theory.
And we call him post-quantum. He brings in the relevant aspects of string theory, but he's describing in mathematical terms, very complex, because he's describing the tactile give and take. He's actually bringing the tactile form. Now, I am the expert on all this world because I tell him why he's coming up with that.
Have you had talks with him?
Oh, yeah, we're good friends. We're colleagues. And the thing is that the ground of physicists trying to figure out what is going on and fit in visual models is the Android meme today. And it is the synchronistic effect. More and more kids are starting to see their own lives in the media. And they think it's synchronicity. They don't know the Android meme is seducing into thinking it's all about you. But the media shrinks.
It's not narcissism. And
it's
that
narcissism.
Kind of, it is
to the max.
It's to the max. There's a lot of that blowing in the wind now because identities are so under threat. By the zeitgeist.
Look at The Matrix. This guy Neo thinks he's saving the world.
That's the movie.
Yeah, the movie. I mean, that's narcissism to the max.
Yeah.
But the media, the technological developments that McLuhan predicted and James Joyce mapped out are showing why the kids would go that way. This is, the media are making it seem it's all about you and everything is friendly and you can interact with everything. You have ESP, technological ESP. You have a tactile relationship with everything. It's very comforting. But if we live in this situation, not knowing where we came from and where it goes...
Wait a minute. Why can't we just go to evolution? If you say where we came from, we came out of an evolutionary process.
We're technology.
Part of no. Technology was uniquely capable, unique capability to the Homo sapien species was the ability to extend their consciousness into the environment through technology.
That's right.
I mean, it isn't very characteristic of many of the other creatures.
That's right.
I mean, birds
they
make
used
nests,
to say in ancient
beavers
times,
make dams, but they don't.
They can't change and improve on it.
Well,
they can't change and improve on their technology.
They can't even change and improve upon their models that they're building to be.
That's right.
Okay, so we're unique that way.
That's right. Now, the ancients used to say that speech is the difference between man and beast. Speech was one of the first technologies.
Language was important.
Yeah, and all the later technologies have linguistic speech-like characteristics. We're just extending our speech.
I just had a good talk with my good friend.
Anybody disturbed by Harold's interruptions? No problem. We're showing the tactile relationship between each other as we talk.
That's right.
We're thinking and talking the same time.
Just had a great talk with my good friend Ornette Coleman. He's great. He won the Pulitzer for music. First time ever.
He's attempting to be a tactile musician.
Well, we were talking about New York City.
Tactility. You tell Ornette I said that.
Homologics is tactility. Okay, I'll tell him. Okay,
I met him in your place, and I told him you're doing Finnegan's Wake and Print, and he agreed and shook my hand and gave me his phone number.
He understood that.
Yeah, but then he hurt his wrist and had that problem, and so I didn't get a chance to talk to him.
Problems do occur and everything. But the thing is, so we're coming out of an evolutionary process. We've now gotten a point where, just to bring it back a little bit to ground in terms of that, we're in the middle of a presidential campaign, all that sort of thing. The change.
Two kinds of tactility fighting there.
I know, and we've got. Well, we'll get to that. We might as well get to that. Bob Dobbs was not made president, so somebody else is going to be.
Yeah, they were going to make inferior forms of tactility.
That was a great idea. Was it Stanley Kramer was the director? Who was the director? Who was the director of the Dobbs?
Man of the Year?
Man of the Year.
Gee, I don't know.
Same guy who did Wag the Dog. Wag the Dog was just brilliant.
They'll look it up. They just need to Google it. It's right there. You should type it right now. We don't need to tell them. It's right there. Anyways.
But we're coming down to a point. Where are we going?
Where are we going?
Yeah. We don't know where it is, but we're going. And the thing is, are you optimistic or pessimistic, or what do you think about the human prospect?
And apocalyptic.
No, apocalyptic.
I'm a paramedia ecologist.
Okay, where does it mean?
I know that I'm under stress, yet if I understand why, I have less stress, so I'm happy and ecstatic and full of slack.
Okay, what do you think about the human condition? Where do we go from here? We got weapons systems.
They need to understand me.
Now, okay, that would be good.
Yeah, I'm all for having a press conference 24/7 on
24/7. You could talk You could talk about more than
Fidel
Castro.
Yeah, I'm the only guy who could go around Rush Limbaugh. He does that. He has a daily press conference and monitors the president with a very tactile relationship to the president.
You're on radio, aren't you? You're
on all media.
Do you have but you don't have a regular presence in the media.
No, I like to keep it surprising, sporadic. I mean, there are places I can go on automatically anytime.
Yeah, right.
But I want to pop up.
You got an open invitation to this chair.
Yeah,
right.
And I want to be Rumpelstiltskin. I want to be the thing that until I'm successfully named and categorized, then I run the show. Rumpelstiltskin, you couldn't control him until you got his name. People don't know my name.
I know your name, Bob Dobbs.
That's the chemical body.
Oh.
What about my other bodies? What are their names?
I don't know.
See,
I'm not sure I want to go into that.
See, I remain impervious because no one wants to go there.
Thank God for Carolyn, your sweet wife.
Well, it's all for her.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
The partner, the loved one.
What do you think is that you're going to go to? Where
no, we ain't going there.
We're at a point where they tell us the weapon systems, extension of consciousness, are now species lethal. That is, they are of such a nature that if they were to be unleashed in a spasm, as we've done with regularity, alarming regularity throughout human history, it would if it got into full tilt boogie land, it would be the end of our whole species. That they could eliminate? They have the capability of eliminating every single human being alive today. Ted Turner was on with Rose the other night. Just a great program, and he said that's issue number 1. That we can obliterate the entire human species in about 30 minutes.
Okay, the problem with...
What do we do with something, that kind of Promethean reality? And then the second part of, in a dialectic, what is there on the averse side of that destructive possibility that's before us all that would be, in a certain sense, equally existentially significant and also possibly a little bit more liberating than the destructive scenario which is there before us, and I think probably at a certain level is very much within the consciousness of the people of this planet now as they walk around.
The problem with saying that's the number 1 issue misses the fact that the extension of tactility in this century, and then the digital replay of that kills humanity before we even get to being blown up by a bomb.
So humanity has disappeared?
Yes, humanity has disappeared.
So
any
we don't
apocalyptic
exist.
scenario has already happened. Any biblical, Hindu, or Hopi prophecy,
or
any
Jesus,
cultural,
or
any of that.
What about the 12th?
Finnegan's Wake. What do you think that means? Finnegan's Wake.
Okay.
Okay. Tribal man even goes.
Spell it out a little bit. What do you mean when you say that? Because you and I are human beings. We're here talking, and there's Willie in the control room, and there's still people out. Many people I noticed out in Times Square the other day.
We've established that communication and speech is the essence of humans, as different from the beast,
well,
because we can evolve it. Now,
that's the thing. No, but the thing Arnett told me is he thought that music came before language. That's all.
I'd agree with that. That's tactility. Tactility came before language.
Right. Okay.
Prove my point. So the thing is that as our new technologies enhance speech, it is what we are built by. It's our beauty. It's our distinction as a species. That factor of communication is obliterated. Not your chemical body, but communication. That's why it's so obvious in this situation, in this decade, that we had a president, and the White House always mirrors the president. We had a guy who couldn't talk. Couldn't communicate because he was expressing the.
We have him now.
Yeah, and he is expressing exactly the devastation of communication that's happened in this non-ecological development of technology. It has destroyed communication between people.
Well, it seems
so
like
we're on our way into the matrix tube. The
wait a minute, you're going so fast. But that it was like theater of the absurd we've been living through. I mean,
that was under TV conditions, not theater of absurdity now. It's a theater of ecstasy. Everybody is in their own solipsistic, narcissistic form of masturbation called their matrix tube or their computer or their internet or their iPhone. All this stuff is an extension of yourself for yourself on behalf of yourself.
What does it all mean?
To yourself.
What does it all mean for the evolution of consciousness?
It means we've come to this critical point
where
if we don't recognize how we've annihilate ourselves, and that's why I would get on there and tell Ted and Rose that they're wrong to emphasize nuclear bomb. That's the bombing of the chemical body. What has happened is the bombing of the communication between people, which is more than just our chemical body, than just speech. We've got the chip body, the TV body, and the astral body. They've all been paralyzed. The only breakthrough, and this is what the Mayan calendar predicts in 2012.
2012, I know they've got that. Yeah,
they say something happens that they couldn't calibrate past 2012. The reason they couldn't calibrate is that we're finally going to have a form of energy, hardware power energy.
You talk about Pons fusion a lot.
I always do it in every show. This is my message. It's there. China's going to be the first to develop it. They'll do it in Africa and Russia after they can't get any more oil because of the quagmire in the Middle East. So we can thank Bush for creating this quagmire that forces China to get a new energy device which will be based on, not on friction, but it'll be frictionless. More energy coming out, your synergy, there's Bucky's a profit of that. More coming out than makes up the constituents. That situation will get us out of this software apocalypse, Armageddon that we're in now. If we don't get that, we're gone, and it's bye-bye, Harold.
I thought you said we already were gone. This is an illusion.
Oh,
we're sitting here talking.
No, I'm saying if we don't get the breakthrough that cancels out the effect of the present, you understand? The present disappearance can be countered by a means of reappearance. And cold fusion, Pons and Fleischmann's cold fusion, will be the means of reappearance. For communication.
And that's not just a metaphor. That's not a fact. That's a metaphor, and you believe in the Pons. I know they've always said that the energy thing is really important, and they've always said, ever since I've been a teenager, they said fusion is the secret, and it's coming, and it's going to be absolutely the wonders once we get to fusion. And I did Mr. Garwin there a while ago. He invented the hydrogen bomb, or the atomic bomb. He was the one who designed it. And he said, and I said, how come it's always advancing ahead, the fusion, because fusion will be unlimited power and energy and that. But isn't there a larger metaphor in the sense, if I may, that talks about energy and all the problems.
The metaphor is the Android meme. No. Android meme is total fusion. Marshall wrote that in 1951, that with the technology inside us and we were inside it. That is total fusion. The technology has become apparently, obviously fused, and I call it the Android meme, where even it is so fused it can pretend that you're free of it. That's how fused we are. It includes the tactile paradox.
Well, I was talking a little bit different, because in a little bit different language and everything, but because on the one hand, it's pretty clear, people can understand, and stated in English, is that weapons go off and it destroys everybody. That's a destructive scenario that people can understand. It's destroying.
That won't happen.
No, okay, that's an article of faith.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it won't happen. The bombs don't work.
It has a capability to. Oh, you're saying that is not the case?
Yes. This
you
whole
say
thing,
that does not exist.
Yeah,
the
me in intelligence, I know that the destruction that's been popularized for 50 years could not happen because the technology isn't that good.
Oh well, then that assumption is a wrong assumption.
On your point,
that the weapons.
Yes,
no,
yes,
not only
yes,
the
yes.
weapons part.
Your assumption is wrong.
Well, okay, that I want to look into. I'd like to know
Yeah.
also where it can be. Where are the models? Where are the testings of that? Where are the implications? You know, the presenting of that evidence or not? Because I'd like to know if that is true. If there's going to be a few survivors in New Guinea, well, then that's different. Then you're going to wipe out the species.
It's got an existential. New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah, well, on the beach.
Yeah,
time.
on the beach.
Never shoot.
To the degree there is an explosion, which I don't think is going to happen.
No, I'm not talking just an explosion. I'm talking about an all-out blitz.
Yeah.
All-out
Northern Hemisphere. Move to the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, well,
move to the Southern Hemisphere.
It didn't do any good on the beach, did it? It was just going to get them.
That's a paranoid 50s scenario.
Okay.
What's going to happen, though,
What's
the
interesting,
first
question,
kid
then?
that grows up in a matrix tube will happen in Australia.
What's a matrix tube?
Where a kid will be in a tube, and if you talk to him, he would say, well, I got a girlfriend, I've been to Tibet, I've traveled all over the place and done all this physical apparent living of 14 years and done all kinds of interesting stuff, and none of it had happened. It was all in his own virtual programming in a tube.
In a tube.
That is coming, but it'll come in a world which has free energy. So we're going to keep developing the Android meme, but we're going to return to hardware free energy, synergy. The Bucky Fuller vision will be brought back. So we end with McLuhan and Bucky Fuller and a dead heat at the end. They were both right in their context.
Well, then, but then that idea, okay, that's reassuring to me that there'd be a few survivors in New Guinea.
Yeah.
And that we're not going to New Zealand, you say.
Yeah.
But we don't, because I've seen a lot of modeling and everything, and I want to get in touch with the people who are best able to do that. I don't know whether, but it seems to me that we crossed that line about 1970 and we're still in that
October
condition.
12th.
Well, it was, around 1970. That's when we couldn't do it in the Second World War.
You know, that's 42 years after Thall and Stern were born in 1928, and we know in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the answer to the universe is 42. And I was in Nova Scotia recently, and this woman showed me a book on 42 is the key to the Kabbalah. The Kabbalists know that the answer to the universe is 42. That's within visual verbal media. It's not the answer anymore. The number now is 8, because it's on its side is infinity or a Mobius strip.
This year is 8. A Mobius
That's
strip?
right, 2008.
Yeah. No, but I mean, but I want to know that. But on the other side, the thing is, because the Pons fusion or the energy is Pons Fleischmann coefficient.
Yeah, Pons and Fleischmann.
But it is that's energy. But on that side, the thing that Fuller put forth anyway, among others, and he had a world game notion and all that and everything, was that we were transcending just at a plain old material scarcity. There were more haves and have-nots that were able to be seen within the capability that had evolved around the year 1970.
Yes.
So that would be one part. That's
the hardware world.
Yeah.
Feeding our bodies.
Hardware.
McLuhan used to say, we got the global village, we got all this radio, but where are the cornflakes, the third world said.
I know. They got to bring
Bucky dealt with the cornflake problem. Marshall explained the death of communication, which is popularized by Jean Baudrillard and the postmodernists, especially John Baudrillard. He's the one who took McLuhan's insight about the death of the communication, the Android meme, and he popularized it. Then Croker built on that. Well, and then I'm the one who brings it all together.
Okay. And then it goes to where, but the idea that you're transcending material scarcity in terms of politics and that sort of thing never is mentioned. It never is brought up as an existentially significant.
It's not a dominant issue.
Because it's not just
the issue is the breakdown of communication.
Well, that's no, but it's a
any idea that was disappears today. How much we got? 2 minutes?
We got about 5.
Okay,
no,
5
4.
minutes. 4 minutes.
4:30.
Let's do a tetrad.
Yeah, right.
Do a tetrad. Technology enhances us, obsolesces the older technology, retrieves previous technology, and flips into post-scarcity. There's a tetrad on McLuhan and Bucky Fuller together.
Post-scarcity is something that's never promulgated in any of our normal means of communication that we
because that's the chemical body. So we better wrap up with the election. We better wrap up with the election.
Okay, but I wasn't thinking of it only material in the sense of conflicts. I was thinking in terms of understanding, knowledge, spiritual, everything, that we're transcending scarcity in a way that's coming up to a speciation
and that requires,
and a transformation and a liberation from history.
That requires perception, and it's very hard.
Now, to the election.
Yeah, it's very hard to perceive what's going on because most people are lost in their particular favorite famous medium.
In that fishbowl.
Yeah, in that fishbowl. It's very hard. My work is to have a constant press conference to wake people up.
We got to get to, we've only got
so what
the election. We got Mr. Obama coming out with all new stuff, see?
Women are more tactile than men, supposedly. Those
well,
are the
there
stereotypes.
Is a big difference between
so
them.
you get this tactile need, nostalgia for tactility happening. There's two kinds. There's the female tactility represented by Hillary Clinton, all right?
Well,
all right. Then there is the rhythmic chemical body tactility, which supposedly the Africans were pretty good at. There's where the rhythm of music comes out of.
Well,
that stereotype is represented by Obama. So he doesn't have to say anything.
Good basketball.
So, but the problem is with Obama is that he emphasizes the tactility of change, the figure ground constantly melting. So he says change. That's his version of tactility. Hillary Clinton wants to bring in tactility as the global village idea, or a bureaucratic.
It takes a village.
Yeah, a bureaucratic orchestration with inclusiveness.
Yeah.
That's another kind of tactility. And guess what the future is represented? John McCain. You know why he represents the future? Because he represents the Pentagon. And the Pentagon is developing the new technologies that are going to change this whole post-tactile situation. We're in a post-tactile environment, so we're looking at two popular versions of tactility, Obama and Hillary, in cliche stereotypical terms, which is all you can do in the TV landscape. So that's the battling of the TV and the chip body. I would say Hillary tends toward the TV scene. Obama gravitates more to the chip, even though they're operating within a medium of election, which is going to create a TV image called the White House. The thing that goes around that is the Pentagon, is the HARP, is the mind control, is the vibratory control, is the the disservices of the cell phones and the cell phone towers. That is what John Cain represents.
McCain, yeah.
John McCain.
You think he is
Cain and Abel.
You would predict that he is going to win the election in November, the Republican
if
John
they
McCain.
continue, right now he's president. Whoever is head in the polls right now is president. It's going to be a totally different situation in 5 months. So McCain is ahead in the polls, so he's president right now. All right, and he will continue if the Democrats cannot understand the limitations of their tactility, of their tactile image. Because Bush represents a post-tactile environment.
Bush represented the post-tactile. Was Bush was representing? They say
he was revolutionary. His image was revolutionary. He had nothing to say, which was exactly where we're at. He represented the apocalypse of the communication situation, the Armageddon. This we'll have a whole reevaluation.
Armageddon is that used to be they're going to fight over in the valley. But that thing Armageddon is the whole planet. Now I want to look up and find out the modeling about that, because I do believe that it's.
You've used that for 30, 40 years.
No, but the modeling I've looked for, I don't know where you find the modeling from somebody who says there's going to be
I will let
survivors.
You know.
It's going to happen, but there's going to be survivors of that.
It's not even going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
That's another thing.
And there's no existentially significant transformation evolutionarily in terms of speciation. We're coming to a new relationship to cosmos. We're coming into a new relationship.
You're using your eye too much. We have become the speciation transformation through the android being.
No, but we
have become this. Where there are 5 bodies.
No, but the synergistic is the unpredicted by the sum of the parts. We're in the womb. We're going to leave
the 4 or 5 bodies,
and we may not be meant to leave the womb.
And
we're at that point of speciation.
Well,
so it's nothing absolutely certain.
Well, I do know the extraterrestrials from the booties are contemplating whether to alter us again.
Thing about
let's throw this into Zing It.
We've had the pleasure. We got 10 seconds.
They're wondering whether to alter us again now. They altered us at 27,000.